High Admiral Nixos of the Zeptarian Empire stood before the crystalline viewing screen, his iridescent scales reflecting the soft blue glow of Earth's hologram. His secondary hearts beat with barely contained disdain as he observed the planet's primitive satellite network and inefficient combustion vehicles crawling across its surface. Remarkable, he mused, addressing the assembled War Council. They've managed to survive this long without even developing basic quantum shielding. His words drew quiet chuckles from the gathered officials, their various bioluminescent markings pulsing with amusement. Director Vix, head of xenological studies, manipulated the hologram with her thought tendrils. Their military capabilities are fragmented, divided among arbitrary geographical boundaries they call nations. They still rely on chemical propellants and nuclear fission. She paused, her markings flickering with what passed for mirth among her kind. They haven't even mastered fusion containment. The War Council chamber, carved from a single asteroid and reinforced with quantum-locked fields, hummed with the subtle vibrations of the Empire's most advanced technology. The assembled leaders represented the pinnacle of evolution in their sector of the galaxy, beings who had long since transcended the need for verbal communication, yet maintained it as a quaint tradition for formal occasions. Admiral Nixos gestured to Professor Rax, their leading expert on primitive species. You've studied their information networks. What of their defensive capabilities? The professor's crystalline form shifted through various shades of green as he projected his findings. They're remarkably inefficient. Their military forces require extensive rest periods. They waste resources on entertainment and leisure. Most notably, they still require physical training to maintain combat readiness. Fascinating, Nixos responded, his scales rippling with anticipation. And their leadership structure? Chaotic at best, Rax continued. They operate under multiple systems of governance, often in direct competition with each other. Their decision-making processes are slowed by something they call bureaucracy and democratic consensus. The chamber filled with the equivalent of laughter as various council members processed this information through their enhanced neural networks. The idea of consulting the general population for military decisions seemed absurd to beings who had evolved beyond such primitive concepts. Fleet Commander Zyra, her cybernetic enhancements gleaming under the chamber's ambient light, stepped forward. I've analyzed their orbital defense systems. They have no unified planetary shield. Their space-based weapons are limited to primitive kinetic devices and electromagnetic pulses. What of their ground forces? Nixos inquired, already planning the invasion sequence in his enhanced mind. Scattered and disorganized, Zyra reported. They still rely on individual soldiers making tactical decisions in the field. Their weapons require physical ammunition, and their vehicles need constant refueling. The War Council's AI interface, designation Omega-9, chose this moment to interject. Historical analysis suggests caution when dealing with species displaying high adaptability quotients. Earth has shown. Silence, Nixos commanded, his scales flashing with irritation. We've conquered 12 systems with similar technological levels. Their adaptability is irrelevant against our quantum weaponry. The AI subsided, but not before logging a final warning in its deep storage. Previous species encountered did not display humanity's unique combination of traits. Nixos expanded the hologram, highlighting major population centers. We'll begin with a demonstration of force. Target their largest cities simultaneously. Once they witness our technological superiority, they'll understand the futility of resistance. Director Vix's thought tendrils wavered slightly. Should we not consider their potential for asymmetric warfare? Their historical records show. Their historical records show precisely what we expect from a primitive species, Nixos interrupted. They fight among themselves over resources and ideology. They have no concept of true unity or power. The invasion plan took shape as the council members added their expertise. They would deploy quantum disruptors to disable Earth's primitive electronic networks. Gravity manipulators would neutralize their ground forces. Neural suppressors would prevent any organized resistance. None of them noticed Omega-9's attempt to display another warning. Species displays unusual capacity for innovative thinking under pressure. Recommend caution. As the Council concluded its session, Admiral Nixos issued the final command. Prepare the fleet. We'll begin the operation at what they call dawn over their most populated continent. Let them witness the rising sun alongside their new masters. The Zeptarian fleet, vast and gleaming with technology beyond human comprehension, moved into position. Their ships, each capable of reducing a city to atoms, arranged themselves in perfect geometric formations above Earth's atmosphere. What they didn't realize, what their advanced algorithms and enhanced minds failed to grasp, was that they were about to encounter something their evolution and technology hadn't prepared them for: human ingenuity and determination. The stage was set for a confrontation that would rewrite the galaxy's understanding of what makes a species truly advanced. As Earth's population went about their daily lives below, blissfully unaware of the armada assembling above them, they were about to demonstrate why underestimating humanity would prove to be the Zeptarian Empire's greatest mistake. Dr. Alina Blackwood stared at her quantum mechanics lab's monitoring equipment with growing fascination. The readings made no sense, yet they told a story that made her heart race. "James, are you seeing this?" she called to her research partner, pushing her silver-streaked hair away from her face. Dr. James Rodriguez, whose decades of work in theoretical physics had earned him both a Nobel Prize and a reputation for unconventional thinking, leaned over her shoulder. "Those energy signatures, they're not natural." His eyes widened as he processed the implications. "And they're definitely not human." The first signs of the Zeptarian invasion weren't their massive ships or advanced weapons. It was the subtle distortions in quantum fields that only the most sensitive human instruments could detect. While the alien armada prepared their surprise attack, Earth's scientific community was already piecing together the puzzle. Admiral Nixos's first indication that things might not go as planned came when his quantum disruptors failed to disable Earth's communications. "Impossible," he hissed, his scales flickering with agitation. "Their technology is primitive." What the Zeptarians hadn't realized was that humans had already begun experimenting with quantum-resistant communications. Dr. Blackwood's team had developed prototype systems that, while crude by alien standards, proved remarkably resilient. "Sir," Fleet Commander Zyra reported, her cybernetic implants pulsing with confusion, "the humans are adapting their communication protocols in real time. They're learning from each failure." In a basement hackerspace in Seoul, Jun-Ho Park, a 19-year-old programming prodigy, was leading a global effort to counter the alien cyber attacks. "They're using quantum encryption," he explained to his worldwide network of colleagues via a hastily modified gaming chat system. "But their algorithms are predictable. They never expected us to analyze their patterns." The Zeptarians' first wave of gravity manipulators descended on major military installations, expecting to find helpless humans floating uselessly in altered gravitational fields. Instead, they encountered hastily modified sports equipment being used as improvised mobility devices. "You know what's funny?" Captain Marcus Thompson called out to his squad as they used modified basketball shoes and parkour techniques to navigate the altered gravity zones. "All those years of extreme sports finally paid off." In her lab, Dr. Blackwood had made another breakthrough. "Their quantum technology has a fundamental flaw," she explained to the hastily assembled Global Defense Council. "They've optimized it so heavily for their own use that it's become inflexible. They can't adapt it quickly to new situations." The Zeptarians watched in growing confusion as their neural suppressors, designed to incapacitate any known form of consciousness, had minimal effect on human minds. What they didn't understand was that human consciousness, with its seemingly chaotic and inefficient nature, proved remarkably resistant to their carefully calibrated weapons. "Their neural architecture is inconsistent," Director Vix reported, her thought tendrils writhing in frustration. "They're thinking in ways our suppressors weren't designed to handle." Meanwhile, humanity's response continued to evolve in ways the aliens had never anticipated. Dr. Rodriguez had discovered that common kitchen microwaves, when modified with his team's quantum resonance discoveries, could disrupt Zeptarian force fields. Grandmothers were becoming guerrilla warriors, armed with repurposed household appliances. Junho's global hacker collective had done the impossible. They'd started reverse engineering alien code. "Their systems are perfect," he explained during a virtual conference, "and that's their weakness. They have no concept of beautiful mistakes or creative errors." Admiral Nixos watched in growing horror as his perfectly planned invasion began to unravel. Humans weren't just fighting back. They were innovating, adapting, and even laughing in the face of superior technology. Videos of citizens using modified skateboards to outmaneuver alien gravity weapons went viral. Memes about the invasion spread faster than the Zeptarian virus countermeasures could track. Dr. Blackwood's team made another crucial discovery. "Their quantum technology is based on perfect symmetry," she explained to military leaders. "But nature isn't perfect, and neither are we. Our primitive approaches are actually more versatile." The Zeptarian War Council received increasingly desperate reports. Humans were using social media to coordinate global resistance faster than alien AI could predict. Street artists were using UV paint to mark vulnerable points in Zeptarian armor information their sensors couldn't detect, but human eyes could see. "They're not supposed to be able to do this," Nixos raged as another perfectly planned attack was thwarted by seemingly random human innovation. "Their technology is inferior. Their methods are chaotic." But that chaos was proving to be humanity's greatest strength. While the Zeptarians waited for hierarchical commands, humans formed spontaneous, adaptable networks of resistance. While alien AI struggled to predict human behavior, teenagers on TikTok were sharing effective battle tactics through dance videos. Professor Rax, watching human adaptation in real time, finally understood their fatal error. "We judged them by their technology," he reported to the increasingly desperate War Council. "We should have judged them by their creativity." As the second day of the invasion drew to a close, humanity had not only survived, they were beginning to turn the tide. Dr. Blackwood and Dr. Rodriguez had started distributing plans for quantum field disruptors built from modified car parts. Junho's hacker collective had infected Zeptarian systems with what they called chaos algorithms, programs so illogical they crashed alien computers trying to find patterns in them. The Zeptarians, with all their advanced technology and perfect evolution, were learning a harsh lesson. Sometimes the most powerful force in the universe isn't perfect technology, but the ability to adapt, improvise, and overcome. As their carefully laid plans continued to unravel, they faced a terrifying realization. They hadn't invaded a primitive planet. They'd awakened a sleeping giant of innovation and determination. Former chess grandmaster Dmitry Volkov sat in a repurposed subway station beneath Moscow, studying a holographic display of Zeptarian ship movements. His mind, honed by decades of strategic thinking, saw patterns where alien AI saw only chaos. "Their formations are perfect," he muttered, "and that's exactly why they'll fail." Around him, the underground command center hummed with activity. The station's old advertising screens now displayed real-time battle data, while vending machines had been converted into quantum field analyzers using Dr. Blackwood's designs. The scent of coffee mixed with ozone as improvised technology crackled and sparked. "They're moving into position for another mass attack," reported Lieutenant Wei Chen, a former video game tournament organizer who now coordinated global defense strategies. "But this time, we're ready for them." The Resistance had learned that the Zeptarians' perfect geometric formations, while technically superior, were predictable. Humanity's seemingly chaotic response patterns had consistently disrupted their carefully calculated strategies. Above ground, Professor Aisha Patel, a specialist in swarm robotics, was implementing her own unconventional solution. "Release the drones," she commanded from her makeshift control center in Mumbai. Thousands of modified civilian drones, each programmed with randomized flight patterns, took to the skies. "This is madness," Admiral Nixos declared as his tactical display became cluttered with countless small signatures. "Their drones are primitive, unshielded, operating on conflicting protocols." His scales flashed with frustration as he realized that was exactly why they were so effective. The Zeptarian targeting systems, designed to track sophisticated threats, were overwhelmed by the sheer unpredictability of human technology. Meanwhile, in the Brazilian rainforest, indigenous guide Maria Santos led a team of scientists through hidden paths. They had discovered that the dense canopy naturally disrupted Zeptarian sensors, creating safe zones for research and development. "Our ancestors knew how to move unseen through these forests," she explained. "Some knowledge doesn't need quantum computers." Dr. Rodriguez's latest breakthrough had come from an unexpected source: children's toys. "Look at this," he explained to a gathering of international scientists, holding up a kaleidoscope. "Their quantum fields operate on similar principles of light manipulation. We can use this to bend their own energy signatures back at them." The Zeptarian War Council watched in growing dismay as their invasion force encountered one baffling human innovation after another. Street musicians had discovered that certain frequencies from traditional instruments could interfere with alien communication systems. Graffiti artists were using specialized paint mixtures that confused Zeptarian optical sensors. "Their resistance makes no sense," Director Vix complained, her thought tendrils twisted in confusion. "They're using obsolete technology in ways our simulations never predicted." Dmitry Volkov, studying the latest battle reports, smiled. "In chess, the strongest moves are often the ones your opponent believes are too foolish to consider." His network of former chess champions had proven remarkably adept at predicting and countering alien strategies. Junho's hacker collective had made another breakthrough. By analyzing Zeptarian communication patterns, they had discovered that the aliens' technological perfection was also their greatest vulnerability. "Their systems can't handle illogical inputs," he explained during a global briefing. "So we're going to give them nonsense they can't ignore." Professor Patel's drone swarms had evolved. Now they carried small speakers playing a cacophony of human music, from classical symphonies to heavy metal. The seemingly random combination of sound waves created interference patterns that disrupted Zeptarian shield harmonics. In the underground command center, Lieutenant Chen coordinated these diverse efforts through a modified multiplayer gaming interface. "The aliens think we're primitive because we still play games," he said with a grin. "They don't understand that we've been practicing coordinated strategic operations for generations." The Zeptarians' perfect technology continued to falter against humanity's imperfect but adaptable solutions. Their quantum-locked force fields were defeated by reflections from disco balls. Their gravity weapons were rendered useless by parkour enthusiasts using urban environments in ways alien algorithms couldn't predict. Maria Santos and her team had made another crucial discovery. "The plants here," she explained, holding up a leaf, "they naturally generate electromagnetic fields that mimic our technology. We can use this to mask our movements." Dr. Blackwood's quantum mechanics lab had become a global hub for innovation. "Every human invention, no matter how simple, has potential," she insisted. Her team was now developing weapons using principles from ancient pottery techniques combined with modern physics. The Zeptarian AI, Omega-9, continued to send warnings that were increasingly desperate. Human innovation rate exceeds predictive capabilities. Unable to calculate probable outcomes. Recommend immediate strategic reassessment. But Admiral Nixos and his war council remained trapped in their assumptions of superiority. They couldn't comprehend how a species that still used combustion engines could possibly challenge their perfect technology. As the third day of invasion dawned, humanity's resistance had evolved into a symphony of coordinated chaos. Street performers distracted alien sensors with UV paint and sound waves. Gamers coordinated global strategy through repurposed MMO interfaces. Scientists turned children's toys into weapons against quantum technology. Professor Rax, watching another perfect Zeptarian formation fall into chaos, finally voiced what many were beginning to realize. We've made a terrible mistake. We thought their lack of unity was weakness, but their diversity is their strength. Every human thinks differently, acts differently. And that's precisely why we can't predict or control them. The underground symphony of human resistance continued to grow, each seemingly primitive element combining into a force that the most advanced alien technology couldn't comprehend or counter. The Zeptarians were learning that true advancement wasn't about achieving perfection. It was about the ability to embrace and adapt to imperfection. Commander Olivia Reeves stood on the deck of the USS Nimitz, watching the sunrise through a shield of modified quantum fields. Just days ago, such technology would have seemed impossible. Now, thanks to Dr. Blackwood's breakthroughs, human military hardware was evolving at an unprecedented rate. "Status report on Operation Checkmate," she called out, nodding to Dmitry Volkov, who had been brought aboard to coordinate their strategic response. The former chess grandmaster's tactical insights had proven invaluable in predicting Zeptarian movements. "The pieces are in position," Dmitry replied, gesturing to a holographic display that showed military units across the globe. "Like in chess, sometimes you must sacrifice a pawn to reveal your opponent's weakness." Above the Earth's atmosphere, Admiral Nixos observed the humans' apparent retreat with suspicion. His scales shifted through patterns of uncertainty as he studied their movements. "They're consolidating their forces, but the pattern makes no tactical sense." What the Zeptarians couldn't understand was that humans were deliberately using strategies that defied logical analysis. Professor Patel's drone swarms now incorporated elements of chaos theory, their movements based on weather patterns and butterfly effects that even quantum computers struggled to predict. "Launch the first wave," Commander Reeves ordered. Across the planet, humanity's counteroffensive began not with advanced weapons, but with a carefully orchestrated symphony of seemingly random actions. Junho's Global Hacker Collective initiated what they called Operation Noise, flooding Zeptarian networks with an overwhelming array of human cultural data. Everything from cat videos to ancient philosophy crashed through alien firewalls, overloading their perfect but inflexible systems. "Their neural networks are experiencing cascade failures," reported Director Vix, her thought tendrils writhing in distress. "They can't process the sheer volume of contradictory information." Meanwhile, Dr. Rodriguez had completed his masterpiece, a network of modified radio telescopes that could turn the Zeptarians' own quantum fields against them. "Every perfect system has a resonance frequency," he explained to the Global Command. "We just had to learn how to play them like instruments." The counterattack unfolded like a complex musical composition. Maria Santos's teams used the natural camouflage of Earth's ecosystems to hide installations that disrupted alien sensors. Street artists deployed UV-reactive murals that created blind spots in Zeptarian targeting systems. Even the planet's magnetic field had been turned into a weapon, thanks to Dr. Blackwood's quantum manipulation techniques. Lieutenant Chen coordinated it all through what he called the Chaos Net, a global command system that looked like a massive multiplayer game but incorporated advanced strategic algorithms. "In games, the best players aren't always the ones with the best equipment," he remarked. "They're the ones who can adapt on the fly." The Zeptarian fleet watched in growing horror as their perfect formations began to break apart. Human fighters, now equipped with hybrid technology that combined alien principles with Earth ingenuity, darted between their ships in patterns that defied prediction. "This is impossible," Admiral Nixos raged as another squadron of his ships fell into disarray. "Their technology is a crude imitation of ours. Their tactics violate every principle of advanced warfare." But that was precisely why it worked. Professor Patel's drones had evolved again, now carrying small quantum field generators cobbled together from microwave parts and modified according to Dr. Blackwood's theories. They swarmed around Zeptarian ships like metallic insects, their erratic movements creating interference patterns that disrupted alien shields. Omega-9, the Zeptarian AI, was experiencing something close to a nervous breakdown. Human innovation has exceeded all known parameters, it reported. Their adaptation rate is beyond computational limits. They are not following any known rules of technological advancement. In the skies above Earth, the battle had transformed into something the Zeptarians had never encountered, a war where perfection was a weakness and chaos was a strength. Commander Reeves watched as her forces executed maneuvers that looked like mistakes but were precisely calculated to exploit alien assumptions. "They expect us to fight like them," Dmitri observed, moving holographic pieces across his tactical display. "But humanity's greatest strength has always been our ability to fight like ourselves." The counteroffensive reached its crescendo as Dr. Rodriguez activated his global network of quantum disruptors. The effect was devastating. Zeptarian ships found their perfect formations transformed into vulnerabilities as synchronized waves of human-made quantum fields rippled through space. Professor Rax, watching from the War Council chamber, finally understood their fundamental error. "We thought we were fighting primitives," he announced, his crystalline form dimming with realization. "Instead, we were fighting artists who turned our own perfection into their canvas." As the fourth day of the invasion drew to a close, humanity had not only countered the alien threat, they had fundamentally changed the nature of warfare. The Zeptarians' perfect technology, designed for perfect solutions, crumbled before human innovations that embraced imperfection as a strength. Commander Reeves stood on her carrier's deck, watching Zeptarian ships retreat in disarray. "Sometimes," she mused, "the best way to defeat an advanced enemy is to remind them that advancement isn't always about perfection. Sometimes it's about knowing when to be beautifully, effectively imperfect." The Zeptarian War Council chamber, once a testament to perfect order, now rippled with waves of uncertainty. Admiral Nixos stood before the fractured remains of his invasion fleet's tactical display, his scales dulled with the alien equivalent of exhaustion. "How?" he whispered. "How did we fail against such primitive beings?" Professor Rax, his crystalline form now etched with stress fractures, accessed the latest analysis. "They didn't defeat our technology," he realized. "They defeated our assumptions." On Earth, Dr. Alina Blackwood and her international team of scientists were making one final breakthrough. "Their quantum technology isn't just about physics," she explained to the Global Command Center. "It's about perspective. They built perfect systems because they believe in perfect solutions. We built adaptable systems because we know perfection is impossible." Junho's global network had penetrated the deepest layers of Zeptarian communication. What they found there changed everything. "Their entire civilization is built on the pursuit of perfection," he reported. "They don't just think they're superior, they literally can't comprehend any other way of existing." Director Vix, watching Earth's chaotic but effective defense networks evolve in real time, finally understood. "Their strength," she transmitted to the War Council, "isn't their primitive technology, it's their comfort with imperfection. They don't just accept it, they weaponize it." Commander Reeves and Dmitry Volkov had developed what they called the final gambit. It wasn't a traditional military strategy, it was something uniquely human. "We're going to show them everything," Reeves announced. "Not just our weapons or our technology, but our culture, our art, our music, our contradictions." "Send it all," Dmitri agreed. "Every painting that broke the rules of art, every piece of music that violated the laws of harmony, every scientific discovery that succeeded by accident. Show them who we really are." The transmission began. Through the quantum channels that Junho's team had established, Earth began broadcasting its history. Not just its military victories or technological achievements, but its beautiful mistakes. Its failed experiments that led to unexpected breakthroughs. Its art that broke every rule but touched every heart. The Zeptarian fleet watched in stunned silence as their sensors filled with humanity's story. They saw cave paintings next to quantum equations, street art beside spacecraft designs. They heard symphony orchestras playing alongside indigenous drums. They witnessed the power of human contradiction, a species that could split the atom but still marveled at sunsets. Omega-9, the Zeptarian AI, experienced something unprecedented, an evolution in its own understanding. They are not primitive, it declared. They are not advanced. They are something we never imagined, a species that thrives on imperfection. Professor Patel's final wave of drones carried no weapons. Instead, they projected images of human life in all its chaotic glory. Children's drawings appeared on alien view screens. The sound of laughter echoed through quantum channels. The smell of fresh-baked bread somehow made its way through atmospheric processors. Maria Santos led her team in a global ceremony, combining ancient wisdom with modern science. Our ancestors knew, she told the world, that true strength comes not from eliminating weakness but from embracing it, from learning to dance with uncertainty. Dr. Rodriguez's network of modified radio telescopes now carried a different message, not attacks, but invitations. "Look at us," the transmission said in 1,000 languages, through 1,000 different means. "Look at all the ways we're wrong and see how they make us right." Admiral Nixos watched his perfect fleet dissolve, not through defeat, but through transformation. Ship by ship, the Zeptarians began to understand. Their sensors, designed to detect perfection, finally opened to the beauty of flaws. "We came to teach them advancement," Professor Rax announced to the War Council. "Instead, they taught us evolution." The war ended not with a surrender, but with a conversation. Humanity, led by their diverse team of scientists, soldiers, artists, and dreamers, showed the Zeptarians a new way of seeing the universe, not as a puzzle to be solved, but as a mystery to be embraced. Dr. Blackwood stood in her lab one last time, looking at the quantum field generators that had helped save Earth. "You know what's beautiful?" she asked Dr. Rodriguez. "These only worked because we got the equations slightly wrong." The Zeptarian Empire, once dedicated to perfection, began its own journey of transformation. They learned from humanity that true advancement wasn't about eliminating flaws, it was about learning to use them, about finding strength in weakness, wisdom in uncertainty, and beauty in chaos. Commander Reeves and Dmitry Volkov watched the alien fleet depart, not in defeat but in understanding. "They came looking for perfection," Dmitry mused, "and found something better, humanity." As Earth celebrated its victory, it wasn't just a triumph of technology or strategy. It was a victory for every artist who broke the rules, every scientist who embraced uncertainty, every person who ever looked at perfection and dared to ask, "What if there's another way?" The stars shone down on a changed Earth, a planet that had proven that advancement wasn't about becoming perfect. It was about becoming more perfectly human. In the end, humanity's greatest weakness had proven to be its greatest strength, the beautiful, chaotic, imperfect spirit that made them who they were. And somewhere in the vast database of galactic knowledge, Omega-9 added a new entry. "Earth approach with wonder. They will not teach you perfection. They will teach you something far more valuable, how to be gloriously, effectively, magnificently imperfect."